corporate learning and development teams globally. They're spending $370 billion a year. And it's actually a little over $100 billion more a year than what marketing teams spend on advertising, just to put into perspective. And marketing teams for a very long time had no way to show return of ad spend. And every time they wanted to spend money, the chief financial officer was like, "What do you mean you're spending money? Where did all the money go that I already gave you?"
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast. We're gonna meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about Cognota with Mr. Ryan Austin, who's the CEO at Cognota. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Max. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, appreciate you being here, and excited to dive into all the awesome things you guys are doing at Cognota, how you guys are growing and scaling, and where you guys are in your own journey. But before we jump into the company, first, from a background, Cognota is in the enterprise SaaS space, specifically in LearnOps. And the company's been around since 2018. And our community, Ryan, is built of entrepreneurs and executives like yourself, but also lots of sales and marketing leaders who may be listening that may be good fits for you guys. So as the CEO and founder at Cognota, love it if you can tell the Business Ninjas community a little bit about yourself and some of the things you're focused on today.
Yeah, absolutely. So founder and CEO of Cognota, would describe myself as an entrepreneur first. I wasn't really good or great at school, so I had to figure it out. And that led me to trialing and through trial and error and persistency of figuring out how to build business. And so Cognota, is one of the companies I've started, the only one that I'm currently focused on full time. And prior to Cognota, I've built a couple different companies in both software, service, as well as hardware. With the last one being with my brother, a company called Go Fish Cam, which we sold in 2019. And so, just trial, tribulation, figuring out how to be an entrepreneur, and that all of that journey led me to building Cognota, which is a learning operations platform.
I love it. I love that founder story. I'm like, as you are now thinking about, where you are in your own evolution now as a founder, where did you find that gap, to build something like Cognota that we'll dive into in a second? How did you get started in thinking about solving for that specific problem that Cognota solves for?
So I think through startups and whatnot, my natural, superpower was really in sales. And in between companies, I joined a company called World Trade Group, where I came in to build a couple sales teams. Long story short, I recognized that this company, WTG, their competitors offered corporate training services, and they didn't. So I pitched the board to basically create a new revenue, like a business inside a business for training. And over time, I became the SVP of Training Americas. Company got acquired by private equity, and I was ready to go back to entrepreneurship. I still didn't have the idea that I wanted to work on, but now I knew how to make an income through these corporate learning teams. So I just started consulting with different enterprises around corporate learning. And that's when I noticed how inefficient, ineffective these corporate L&D teams were operating. And I started seeing some trends that I saw happen with RevOps or DevOps, where a long time ago, those business functions worked, they took this waterfall approach, and over time they became more agile and they became more strategic to the business. And these big operating players or software solutions were born during those business transformation eras, GitLabs or Atlassian for DevOps, Salesforce or HubSpot with RevOps, etc. And I just started seeing these trends with corporate L&D teams where they were becoming more strategic to the business. The industry started looking at them more as a strategic arm to business growth versus being a cost center. But the way they were operating was very inefficient. They didn't have a purpose-built operating system. They were trying to stick together and glue together all these different IT tools that they could get their hands on. And that's when I kind of got the idea, there's DevOps, there's RevOps. These corporate learning teams are becoming more strategic to the business. Why isn't there any LearnOps? And so we launched the business to be the first operating system for corporate learning and development teams to power the operations and the workflows and give these teams access to data to track return of learning spend for the first time. But naturally, leading the LearnOps category creation, building community to help educate people on how to do these things better as well.
Super interesting that you kind of launched this based off of, a lot of founders will do that, right? They'll figure out like, okay, from their experience, like where can they potentially tie into revenue generating activities, and you seeing that there was a gap there between the learning and development process and for a corporate world, and turning that into potentially revenue generating activities is really interesting. I appreciate you kind of like sharing the background, like the origin story there to where you guys got to today. And I think I heard like almost like your elevator pitch, right? First operating system between learning and development teams. Like what problem like specifically, are you guys like solving? Like how would you like pitch this, I guess, maybe if you were on like Shark Tank to like investors?
Yeah, so I guess the way to look at it is corporate learning and development teams globally, they're spending $370 billion a year. And it's actually a little over $100 billion more a year than what marketing teams spend on advertising, just to put into perspective. And marketing teams for a very long time had no way to show return of ad spend. And every time they wanted to spend money, the chief financial officer was like, what do you mean you're spending money? Where did all the money go that I already gave you? And they're like, it's coming, takes time to see the marketing dollars come back to the business. But there's no way to track that. Now you have these operating systems that do that work for you, makes it easy to tell the stories of where the dollar is going, what the return of investment's going to be. Learning teams don't have that luxury, but they're spending $100 billion more than people do on companies do on advertising. And so we're just trying to connect the dots for them. Already in the market, corporate learning and development's not new. You have your learning management systems. You've probably heard that term, which are the software solutions to deliver training or online learning to learners and track the results. And then you have all these content tools, how to author content or create content, companies where you can buy content off the shelves like LinkedIn Learning, etc. So prepackaged content and whatnot. So, on content and delivery, you have very mature, saturated, almost fragmented markets. But then the actual operations, like literally the infrastructure to powering these learning teams, there's nothing. They're using generic project management tools, SharePoint, Excel spreadsheets, no access to data, no access to return of ad spend. And so that's what we're trying to solve. It's giving these teams an actual operating system so that they can tell the story of where they're spending and the impact it's having on the business.
So can you give me like a couple kind of ideas of like use cases, maybe one from, an enterprise perspective, because I've heard a lot about kind of corporate life, and I'm assuming there's a few different use cases there, but also what about like a small to medium sized business? Like why would those types of companies, come to you?
Yeah, so they do come to us, and we generally focus on, just as a business model, like companies with 1,000+ employees, because their L&D teams are naturally bigger. Learning and development teams are like these product management teams inside of a business. their job is to solve problems for the business, but instead of creating software, they're creating learning experiences or teaching people how to do stuff to change behaviors to get to those end success criteria or goals. So the bigger the company, the more pockets of these learning teams or product teams there are across the business, and they tend to partner with business functional areas. So, if you're an oil and gas company and you're having health and safety issues, you might have a learning team that manages that partnership. So anything related to health and safety training will always go to these learning partners that you've been partnered with. And sales enablement, like in some of our customers like General Mills, supply chain learning, like you have it everywhere. Now, under 1,000 employees, you usually have like 1 to 3 L&D people. So you can kind of get away with, the do-it-yourself options, let me glue things together. But now, because learning is becoming more strategic, even these smaller teams are trying to figure out, how do we tell our stories better? How do we show ROI so we can get more budget to do more things? And although we don't really take money from that size team, we're about to launch a freemium product where we just give them our product for free. We think they'll talk about us by doing that. They hang out at the same conferences as the bigger, L&D teams do. Sometimes you'll have, a director of learning and development from 1,000-person company leave that company, and then you track them on LinkedIn and they're now head of learning at Disney or something like that, right? So we think you'll build a lot of good faith, and it just allows us to execute on our mission more and help more people, even if, it's not tied directly to our business model. So reach out. We haven't launched that feature formally yet, but we are letting people into it just by emailing us. We'll just give it to you, and then soon it will be automated where you can sign up for yourself.
That's fantastic. Everyone who's listening, Ryan, what's the best way for someone to go ahead and take advantage of that? You said email you or like hit you guys up. What's the best way?
Yeah, so two great ways. I would say go to cognota.com, so cognota.com, and there's a lot of ways through the website to get in touch, contact us, etc. And we also have a LearnOps community on LearnOps.com. If you're just trying to become a better L&D leader, or looking for your next gig, or learning about the industry or about technology changes or whatnot, we have over 1,000 L&D leaders in there helping each other. It's a community of practice, and that's LearnOps.com.
Love it. Yeah, we can include that for everyone listening in the description. So if you're listening, go ahead and check that out. But thanks for sharing that, Ryan. That's really interesting way for companies who may not be that perfect fit but also still want to see like how they're spending things and leverage that data. That sounds like, makes sense for you guys to open up that door, not to close the door on companies that might be smaller, but ones that want to learn and see how this can potentially help benefit them. Are there specific industries, I guess, that you see you guys partner up with, or the verticals? I saw on the website you guys have companies like Home Depot, so there's some retail, brick and mortar, big corporate, right? Like what types of verticals do you guys typically work with?
Yeah, it's really across all industries. Our vertical really is learning and development. So, imagine we were a RevOps software, or we were Salesforce. You'd probably be selling into the heads, VPs, directors of sales. And, sales exists in every industry. So does learning and development job titles, and those people exist in all industries. So we just really focus on the learning and development functional leaders, and a lot of the times you have multiple L&D leaders across the organization.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So pretty much industry agnostic. But
yeah,
yep, makes sense.
And right now we're just focused on like corporate, corporations. So try and stay out of government, or just because they need, a lot of times you need to do stuff like FedRAMP for compliance or whatnot. And we have a couple higher education institutes who use our platform, but the corporate L&D market is big enough, and the biggest market to focus on for us right now. So trying to stay focused there, and then we'll partner with people in other industries or other verticals of markets and let them kind of run with our software there as resellers.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's definitely a channel in addition to outbound, inbound events. I know you guys have been doing a lot of events as well, but those channel partnerships are always amazing too, because they also can help you in kind of telling that best in class story, right? Like, here's reasons why we partnered up with this company is because they're doing X, or they're focused on Y, and that's also our focus. So is that part of maybe like, what makes you guys stand out from the competition? Is the partnerships, or what would you say, like, how, I know you kind of created this category of LearnOps, but I'm just kind of curious, like, what maybe that secret sauce might be.
Yeah, I mean, look, the secret sauce was painful to get to. In all honesty, building a new category, like truly building a category, being able to say you're doing that is cool, but it's very painful along the way. There's a lot of education. And so you trade off for that super fast business growth at the very beginning, because you got to educate basically an entire world.
Yeah.
Now, that said, you have a lot of leverage in building partnerships. We do some cool stuff with IP that gives us, some secret sauce, being the first. And we build this foundation of early channel partners, being able to launch the LearnOps community, empower that. A lot of content that you can find online about LearnOps is driven by us because, we were the first. So it just takes time, but over time you build that brand power and that thought leadership. And, given your audience, we started the business naturally with just myself doing outbound and another co-founder back in the day. And we learned from doing that, and we flipped the switch to inbound marketing, or added inbound marketing to outbound efforts. And it took like over a year to build that foundation up, having good content around that would resonate with our viewers, etc. And then from inbound and outbound, we expanded into partner marketing channels. And now we've launched community. So we're bringing, this new community-led growth or community qualified lead to the table, to, how our funnel works. And later this year with the freemium product, we'll have product qualified leads. So really trying to like nail everything, which is really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we've done a good job, because although you're right, we started the company as a software company in 2018. I first started this company as a consulting company 2015, and we pivoted from 100% service to 100% SaaS. And then we went from a sales-led SaaS motion, and by the end of this year, we would have successfully migrated to a pure community and product-led growth model, which is really hard to do. But we just stuck at it, and these things started working over time as we continued to invest in them.
Sounds like there's a lot of amazing things happening there. I mean, first, building the brand and thought leadership is a big piece of you guys growing content, and especially on outbound channels, making sure that you're being seen in people's inboxes and with the right type of content to continue to nurture. And then building the inbound funnels as well are also really important to driving the right organic traffic, but also the traffic that would actually convert. It seems like now you guys have kind of the evolution of the company over the past year is now moving into, as you mentioned, like this community-based selling, which is really interesting to where you are. Like, are there, it sounds like you guys have had a lot of different kind of, in the evolution, a lot of different challenges, and how you're growing in scale. You guys have 60 employees, you work only with enterprise. Like, what types of like challenges right now is the business going through?
Yeah, so fortunately we're growing. People are looking at smarter ways of operating or working, and how do you do more with less. And the L&D function is being asked to do a lot more with the same or less budget even. And so we help to unlock that, the ROI metrics, saving time and costs. Like we get rid of disparate tool costs, so we replace that. And then by working smarter in one system versus disparate systems, the efficiency gains is like significant. So, we're seeing more as a real painkiller in this environment versus a vitamin, which some software companies are being seen as, and as such, we're still growing really well. That all said, business and markets are cyclical, right? And if you only have one focused channel, inbound, for example, which I'm a big believer of, but you might not be able to control the buyer cycle as you once were. Your business model changed as the market changed. So it's really important to even if you're not fully invested into these different channels, to flex the muscle a little bit with somebody on your team so that you never have to start from scratch, right? Like we had no community person on our team, but our customer success person had the skills and ability to do that, and she built the community for us. Now we're hiring a community manager into the company to run it for us, but we're able to flex the muscle to get it going, and like exceeded all our expectations as well. It just shows you like the market was ready for this, and the year of upfront work that we did to thinking this would work, piloting in Slack and all these other things, like really paid off. But right now, for example, like our inbound slowed down a bit, and we brought back like power hours with the SDR team, and told them to flex the outbound model a little more, just to augment some of the SAL, sales accepted leads, coming in every month. And because we always flex the muscle a little bit in the different areas, inbound, outbound, community now, partnerships, etc. We're able to make those micro level pivots as the market changes so that we can keep up with our goals. And I just found that people are like Zoom fatigued, email fatigued through COVID, and they actually want to talk to salespeople more than they previously did. So our sales development team is actually having a lot of success with connect rates and booking meetings through cold calling, believe it or not.
It is not dead.
Yeah.
Far from it. That's definitely what we've been seeing as well. And especially if you have, the manpower or the capabilities and technology to run outbound at scale, it's a channel that every company should be leveraging if they can. Because yes, people like yourself and me, right? We met through outbound. When the messaging is done right, when there's value behind it, and there's a clear, call to action as well. Those are all things that can play into actual conversations like this happening. So everyone who's listening, kind of take some notes, because what I'm hearing from Andrew, it's like it's a mixture in a pipeline from all different types of angles, and outbound is still one that is a muscle that continues to need to be flexed, for sure. So that's, I appreciate you diving into like some of those channels. I appreciate you diving into like how you guys are thinking about sales. What about marketing? Like, how is marketing right now like playing a role in helping the business stand out, right? I know you coined LearnOps, right? You got it. Trademarks too, which is incredible. Good on you. So like, how is like the marketing strategy? Like, how are you guys educating prospective customers today?
Yeah, so the trademark was a strategy because in corporate L&D, because of how fragmented the learning management system market is, you have to be careful. Like there's this company who created a new category called LXP, Learning Experience Platform. And they started crushing it. And all these LMS players just overnight started calling themselves an LXP platform. Like, we're an LXP platform. And it just confused the market. Like, is an LXP platform an LMS platform? What's the difference? It was like really damaging to them. So what we do is we license the trademark at no cost if you join our trusted partner network. And we teach you how to build the LearnOps category alongside with us. So we kind of create competition in doing that.
Mhm.
where we share revenue with people, etc., and we give them access to the license for free, but they have to use it responsibly. We chose to do that because if LearnOps became a buzzword and that everybody used in the wrong context, in the right context, we have no problem. The wrong context, it's damaging. It actually doesn't allow the industry to get ahead. So we're doing this and kind of as a quality assurance measure until it's talked about at scale in the right context. And then at one, no promises, but one day maybe we'll just make it open source. Not right now, but come and talk to us if you want to partner on it. But eventually, once it's de-risked, we'll do that. I would assume. In regards to marketing, inbound, for some reason, events are big within learning and development. And so we go to conferences, we do a lot of webinars. We're launching a free half-day LearnOps summit in September that's virtually led for now. Who knows, maybe one day it'll be in person. And what else? I mean, we do ads, so a lot of demand gen initiatives, and then we've built a really good group of ambassadors around LearnOps. So we're starting to do a lot of co-marketing with partners, coaches, community members, stuff like that as well.
Very cool. Yeah, there's a lot you guys are doing there to kind of optimize on. First, you already have a library of content that you guys have developed. You focus on multi-channel, multi-pipeline. So it makes sense why you guys would, trying to stand out in the marketplace for sure. And I appreciate you kind of diving into a little bit about like why you guys coined LearnOps and trademarked it and maybe what the future holds. And that, love to understand for you, right? When we talked last, there was some big announcements happening, what's, we're halfway through the year. We're almost in Q3. Next month is right around the corner. Is there something that you guys talked about at the beginning of the year that you're looking to solve for by the end of this year? Is there something you want to celebrate once we get to the end of Q4 and start Q1 in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to when you have big goals and big visions, it's easy to focus always on that. So it's important to celebrate the wins along the way. So we're hopefully very soon, within the next few weeks, gonna celebrate the next kind of major revenue milestone and get the team together. There's some financing stuff that we're gonna celebrate, which is exciting. There's a lot of pressures too. We're now getting to a point in the business where we're kind of starting to, the company's getting past that stage as a startup and going into scale, and creates a lot of pressures, right? This new board, stuff like that, where it's all executionally focused, and you got to learn how to get really predictable about these things, and honest too about, it's good to be optimistic and excited about where you're going to get to, but you need to be reasonable and realistic on what those numbers look like and build a plan around that, and not oversell to the board too. And so we're getting into a really interesting place where we're growing, we're hiring people, etc. But it's about tweaking things, also promoting people to new positions, optimizing in other areas, etc., so that we can go faster and better invest dollars as well. And it's really hard. There's also a lot of product, initiatives that we need to execute on. We want to get to a really interesting place before the end of the year, so we can use community, use freemium as a launch pad next year. And if any of that feature work extends into next year, it just eats into that go to market time on scale using community-led, product-led growth initiatives. So like we have to execute on all of these items. Our customers depend on it. Our partners are excited about it. Our internal teams are really excited about it. And more importantly, for us to make the numbers that we know we can get to, if we just execute on time, we got to do it. So it's really about banding the team together and understanding why we have to do these things and why these timelines are very sensitive to the business. And the flip side, you get to them, and, a lot of people's worlds change.
Sure.
The company changes, faster promotions, faster hiring. So it's exciting, but it's going to be a challenge for sure.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, like throughout our conversation and from what we met is predictability and revenue, right? Generating predictable revenue on time every single month with the specific channels you guys are focused in on. That's obviously a big driver, and getting from 0 to 1, and then scaling the teams, helping them level up, probably helping them become better brand ambassadors and growing their own education within the team and their own growth there. That's really helpful, kind of like to hear your perspective, and I'm sure all the other entrepreneurs and executives who are also in similar stages from Series A or seed funding into that next round are feeling a lot of what you've been going through. Any last advice, maybe as we wrap things up here, anything else that you think you'd like to share or that our listeners need to know about you or the company that we haven't covered thus far, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, one thing probably is that metrics matter, and it really depends what type of business you are. If you're bootstrapped, you don't really have a board, like just go grow your business, figure it out. If you're venture backed, even more important, but you should know this anyways, but the metrics matter, right? So at the seed stage, you want to focus on like very specific business metrics or unit economics. At Series A, you want to focus on very specific business metrics and unit economics. It's really important to have a sound operating model on how your business works and build a plan around that. And if certain metrics are off every quarter or during a specific quarter, as a CEO and as a management team, you need to focus on getting those on track. And a lot of times it's easy to just run the business and not focus on the plumbing behind the scenes. Like, who cares about ACV? Like, we are where we are. But in reality, it's like, how do we augment that number on how we can increase these things? Like at one point, Cognota's ACV was a weaker metric for us, as we were building out the platform. And when we focused on that, said, no, we need to improve this over the next 6 months. We built strategies around that. We 10x'd our ACV in less than a year. And, so it's really important to have a handle on how to manage those things as an operator. And sometimes what you've hired into becomes misaligned to what you need to do to get the business ahead. And, it's just part of it. And you just need to be disciplined and have to figure those things out along the way, make those micro level pivots and iterate on the business, and don't let those things fall behind too much.
Yeah, focus on the metrics. And that's why you built Cognota, right? The software allows your customers to get better visibility into their own data, and ideally,
there you go,
better decisions.
Yeah, I guess if I wasn't focused on that, we'd definitely be a hypocrite.
I love it, Ryan. Well, everyone go check out Cognota. Again, it's going to be really beneficial for your learning and development investments to help measure the impact of spend and where you guys are focused. And it's a really awesome software to manage and streamline your learning and development operations. So everyone go check out Cognota. Ryan as well mentioned the freemium option. So definitely reach out to them. Let them know you listen to our podcast. Also check them out on LearnOps.com. Ryan, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time and sharing your story and a little bit about Cognota.
Yeah, I loved it. Love the platform you're building, and appreciate you doing this too, Max.
You bet, Ryan. Yeah, thanks again for everyone for listening. Check out Cognota again. It's Cognota. cognota.com. And thanks everyone for listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast, and have a great rest of the day.